Hey, so I'm going to give you an overview of Metaverse, and you may want to watch this at faster speed because we're going to cover a lot of content. So consumers' ability to publish content is evolving, right? We started with text and blogs, and then we went on to photos and videos, and now we're moving into this thing we call interactive content. And so what's interactive content? Well, it's things like AR and VR, and obviously games, interactive ads, choose your own adventure stories, interactive humor, all kinds of experiences that require the user to be engaged and to make decisions about which way they want to go, which is different than sort of passive consumption of text, photos, and videos. The problem with interactive experiences is they're difficult to create. It requires you to create logic and write code. And of course, most people aren't software developers. And this is the problem that we're addressing. We're making it super easy for non-technical people to be able to rapidly create these types of interactive content, interactive experiences. You can look at it very much in comparison with YouTube, right? YouTube, by dramatically simplifying video publishing, basically created this long tail of video, millions of new creators that are publishing. And that's exactly what Metaverse is doing for interactive content. It's lowering the friction to creation and publishing of this, and therefore inviting a whole new generation of content creators to fill in this long tail. As you can see by some of these annotations, this goes from the head, as PBS is about to be the first one to embed our SDK. We'll talk about that a little bit later. To large brands like Sony Music and Atlantic Records and things of that sort, to thousands of teachers, students and hobbyists that are using this already. And in fact, obviously in the long tail of video, we found all kinds of unexpected hits like unboxing videos on Twitch and surprise eggs. And it'll be interesting to see what we'll discover in the long tail of interactive experiences. Our creators already include a bunch of different types of folks, from ad agencies to marketers, authors, teachers, students, etc. In fact, a great way to check out what they're creating is to go to Twitter and search for Metaverse app, and you'll see that they're actually quite vocal on Twitter about the things that they're creating. And I'm also attaching this deck, and so these things here are all clickable, and so these are all people that have used Metaverse to create various types of things. We've taken video and written case studies, and so if you're curious, you can click around on these and look at what they've done. Sony Music, for example, augmented the Country Music Festival in Nashville with 73 augmented reality experiences that spawned over a 4-day period of time, timed along with artists that were performing on stage during that time. Atlantic Records used Metaverse to augment Lollapalooza, yada yada, lots of things here. This past Rose Parade, an ad agency called Interactivism, used Metaverse to augment one of the floats for a Chinese real estate company called Singpoli. They ended up winning the grand prize. They got a bunch of TV coverage. They wrote a case study, and there are thousands of participants that took selfies inside of our app during this experience. So you can click on those as well. And then, of course, there are things that we've created. Now, all of these experiences, this interactive content, can be represented as a QR code or a link. We'll talk about that in a second. So if you scan these QR codes, in fact, I encourage you to play around with them and use your phone right now to scan them, or maybe after this, come back to this and scan them then. These are actual experiences that are attached to these things. The first one is obviously attached to a display ad, and it gives you a 2-minute memory quiz to test your memory, and then compares it to that of others and tells you how much you need Lumosity service. This other one for Lego is 8 mini Lego games that take about 10 minutes to complete that are attached to this little brochure, this little pamphlet. You can obviously annotate retail locations and print advertisement and even TV advertisement with this, because you can obviously display a QR code during a TV ad. Consumer packaged goods or billboards here, this one at the bottom left, if you scan it, it will allow you to try on 4 different Omega watches on your own wrist. And there's a link here to Augment Anything with Metaverse to a white paper that we wrote, sort of showcasing a bunch of use cases that our beta testers have done and some ideas that we've had. So I think you might find that fascinating as well. Some of my favorite ones, of course, are way down the tail where you've got these, we now have over 2,000 teachers that are using Metaverse in their classrooms with their students across every grade level and every subject. And they're tweeting a lot, and so we see things like this, where you've got students constructing their own AR mock crime scene or creating sound effects for their games. So a bunch of people are creating games, and they can add sound using Metaverse to those things. And this is perhaps my favorite one, because if you think about it, this is way, way down the long tail. This is from a 3rd grade teacher that says, "Who's that on the Metaverse app today?" It's our very own janitor teaching us about bathroom expectations. And so she used Metaverse to create an interactive experience for her 3rd graders that kept their attention and taught them bathroom rules. And of course, then she writes, when you can get kids excited about learning bathroom rules, maybe you've got something special. The way it works is there are basically 2 pieces. There's our builder that we call the Metaverse Studio. It's just a web app. You go to a URL, you create a free account, and then you get this thing called a storyboard, basically this canvas, and you can drag around these components. I'm about to show you a demo in a second. And it's really easy to do. People get started by watching a 10-minute YouTube tutorial. In fact, there are hundreds of tutorials that are created by users for other users on how to use various features of Metaverse. It requires no coding, no technical knowledge whatsoever. We've seen 1st graders, literally 1st graders, watch this 10-minute tutorial and start creating games. Now they misspell some things, but they certainly understand how to use this creation tool. And then these experiences that are created are then rendered on mobile devices. And so we have an app that runs on iPhones and iPads, as well as Android phones and Android tablets. These are all native apps. And also on Chromebooks that support Google Play services. And also we're about to release an SDK that will allow any third-party developer to embed our renderer in their own app. So any app that embeds this renderer, it's literally 3 lines of code, can now render these experiences. Also, these experiences are represented as permalinks, meaning you can share them on social media or link to them from your website or send them via email, etc. And also each experience automatically gets a scannable QR code, so you can print them out and attach them to practically anything. And that leads us to our business model, which is we plan on, and of course we're about to raise a Series A, and so we'll figure out what the business model is, but we believe sort of this is what it is we will allow anyone to use our studio free of charge. You can create as many experiences as you like. You can use our app, the Metaverse app, to render these experiences. We may in the future restrict some usage or features via micropayments, for example, like Roblox. And of course, some folks are going to create experiences that are valuable, and they, the creator, may want to sell them to others. And so we will facilitate that and allow them to do that, in a sense, creating a store. And then finally, if you are a big brand or some kind of a professional that already has an app then and wants to use our SDK, then there will be tiered pricing for that, all the way to enterprise pricing. As I said, the first one that's going to be using this is a public broadcasting system, although we are giving it to them free of charge because they've been helping us beta test this for a couple of months. The short-term beachheads that we're going to be addressing are sort of already showing themselves in our beta, and so this is gaming. So you've got kids and amateurs creating all kinds of different games. You've got marketers and brands that are creating all kinds of things that help them communicate their message, that help make their existing advertisements better, so making print ads better and billboards better and TV ads better, meaning more engaging in multimedia. Entertainment events, SMBs, there can be sort of many of these beachheads. And so let's jump in and I'll give you a demo of it, but first let me play this cute little video I took of my kids dancing with an AR astronaut. And so I'll quickly play a portion of this. So the kids are real, the astronaut is not. And so this astronaut is actually just a 3D object that was actually created in a Google product called Google Poly, and then animated and put into Metaverse, and then can be rendered in this way. Okay, so let's go ahead and create something like that and even a little more. So I'm going to open up studio.gometa.io. So this is our creation suite. And you need to create an account and log in. I've obviously already created an account and I am logged in. So I can simply say create experience. And that's going to give me this whole canvas, which is a drag and drop environment here. And we call this canvas a storyboard. And experiences are made up of two types of elements. Visual elements, think UX, that we call scenes, and then logical elements that we call blocks. So think logic blocks. And I'm simply going to name this experience demo. I can add new scenes by clicking here. And you can see there are a bunch of different types of scenes here. And also, if you keep scrolling down, you will see what we call modules, which are combinations of scenes and blocks that allow you to get started quickly. And then over 100 different types of blocks that you can use. We'll talk about this in a second. So to configure a scene, you click on various areas of the scene. And so this is called a character scene, and it's got a couple of things you can do with it. So you can select a character. And here you can upload your own character by choosing this add character, or you can use thousands of characters that have already been uploaded by our early users. You can add 2D images, animated GIFs, or 3D objects. We support any .obj file, including animated OBJ files, and so it gives you instructions here on how to upload animated ones. It's pretty straightforward. Again, lots of people have done it. Or you can use things that are coming from our partners. And so we have a direct integration with Google via API. And so anything that's created in Google Poly is already available to be used in Metaverse. We also now have an integration with a company called JiffyCat, which has hundreds of thousands of these animated GIFs that you can use, free of charge in your experiences. I'm going to use an object from the Google Poly library, this astronaut. And then we can get him to say something. And he can say, hey, isn't this cool? Okay. And then we can give him responses here, so we can add buttons. And I'm just going to create some random ones here. I'm going to say, dance for me. Then I'm going to create one that says smile for the camera. And then I'm going to choose for them to be positioned in this way rather than vertically. And I'm going to change their color. As you can see, you can choose number of columns. In fact, I've seen people who have created over 60 buttons on one of these 60. And it sort of feels kind of like Minesweeper. If you want, you can add timers. And so you can say you only have n number of seconds to make a choice. And if you don't make a choice, here's what happens. I'm going to turn this off for now. If we want, we can record sound, and so we can choose from our library of sounds that people have already uploaded, or you can add your own, and here you can record directly in the browser, or you can upload any audio file and we'll transcode it and attach it to it. So this is really powerful. You can get these things to speak. Okay, now I'm going to add another one here. I'm going to add another character scene, and I'm just going to put it over here. And I'm going to link this Dance For Me button to this by clicking on the button, and then over here in Transition Control, simply clicking on this finger and then clicking here. As you can see, it creates this little connector that connects this button to this scene. And then here I'm going to click on this one, and I'm going to change it. And I'm going to choose an animated 3D object. In fact, we have the same Google Poly astronaut that's been animated. And if things come with animations, they've got this little interface where you can click here and you can choose what animation you want. And so I'm going to choose this thriller dance. Now I'm just going to add a button here to go to the next scene when we get there. Okay, now I'm going to stop here for a second, and we can test this already by simply using our app. And so to do that, I can say share, and then I can take my phone here, which is just an iPhone. Again, this runs just as well on iPads. And this QR code is a universal code, meaning you can scan it with anything you like the native iPhone camera, for example. So I'm going to open up the iPhone camera, and then I'm going to scan this code, and you can see it says open in Metaverse. Now I'm going to tap this, and it's going to open up the Metaverse app and open this experience. I can then say play, and that's going to render this astronaut for me. And he says, hey, isn't this cool? Okay, and he's sort of just hovering here. I can move closer to him. I'm moving my camera. I can move further away from him. See, and he gets smaller, gets bigger. And then he's just floating here. He is a 3D object, so I can walk around him and do that. Or if I want to, I can pin him to, for example, a table. So I'm going to tap that AR button at the top, and then it's going to give me this interface, and I'm just going to say pin, and then here he is, and now he's standing on the table. And now if I say dance for me, you'll see he'll start dancing. And so again, if you wanted to attach music to him, you could do that, and there he is just doing a dance. I'm going to try to move this around to show you that you can look at him from the front and the back, and he's just dancing on the table here. And so now I'm going to just end this experience, and we're done. So you can see how easy it is to basically put 3D objects and animated 3D into AR space. We didn't have to write a single line of code. It was pretty easy to do. Let's make this experience even cooler. And so I'm going to add a new scene. And this time I'm going to add a 360-degree video scene. And I'm going to drag it and put it over here, connect this button to the scene. And then I'm going to click on this scene and configure it to be, by default, a VR scene. And then here I can either upload my asset or give it a URL to an asset that I already have, meaning somewhere, anywhere on the web. I happen to have a URL like that. Actually, sorry, I don't. Let me go find one here. Here it is. And so I'm just going to take this URL and paste it here. And now I've got this space station here. And then after that, I'm going to say we're simply going to go back to this scene over here. Now, before we test it out, let's add a few other things. I'm going to say add new. And here I'm going to add a camera scene. I'm going to put that over here and then link this smile for the camera button to this scene. I'm going to click on this scene. I'm going to configure it to be front-facing, meaning it's a selfie, although I could also make it rear-facing, photo, video, etc. By the way, these are all changeable at runtime. And then I can also say create frame. And here I can say create a frame. And here I can use any object I want that I've uploaded or that are available in our library of objects. And so, for example, I could take this bear and put it on my screen here like this, and maybe take this cat and then maybe make him face this way and go like that, and sort of put him over here. He's going to be peeking out at me from here, maybe make him a little bigger. And so you get the point. You can create all kinds of amazing things like this. You say save, so we're done. And there's the bear and the cat. And then here we can do all kinds of things. So we can add blocks. Blocks are logical elements that do things. And so there are blocks, for example, for creating what we call media walls. So I can upload this photo that we're going to take to the cloud and create an artifact of doing that. I'll show it to you a little bit later on. This time, though, I'm going to use this set called Google Vision. So Google has a powerful set of APIs available for developers to use. Most developers don't even know about this one. It's called Google Cloud Vision API. It used to be called Google Goggles. And it allows us to pass it an image, and then it returns back a series of labels about it. And we've abstracted it in this way that makes it super easy for laypersons to use. And so you can test if the photo is a person or an animal, for example, or how many people are in the photo, or if it's a hot dog. I'm going to use this one right here, is happy. It says connect this block to a camera scene to check if the most prominent face in the photo is a person who's happy. I'm going to click on that, and it's going to give me this block. I'm going to put it over here, and then click here, and then say transition to this block. And then as I click on this block, it tells me, look, all you need to do is tell me where to go if the person is happy and where to go if the person is not. By the way, as you can see, these blocks also have YouTube tutorials that teach you how to use this specific block. So there are, as I said, many tutorials that teach you all these things, so it's super easy to do. Okay, so now I'm going to say, okay, if the person is happy, I'm going to say add new, and let's use a web view scene, for example, and take them to, sure, why not, the happiest place on earth, Disney.com, okay? And so I'll click here, and here where it says transition to scene, I'm going to click here, and it goes there. Now I'm going to add another scene. This time let's add another character scene. Oops. And I'm going to put it over here, and then connect this to this. And so we're going to go here if the person is not happy, and so we're going to say that's not a smile. And then maybe we'll change this animation to be, oh, wagging finger sounds good. And then we'll add a couple of buttons. One that says give up, and this one is simply going to end the experience. And another one that says try again, and this one is going to link back to the camera scene. And that's it. We've actually just created a pretty powerful experience that uses computer vision and all this AI-powered Google Cloud capabilities. It embeds VR. It has AR and animated AR of 3D objects that were created in Google Poly. And this experience is renderable now, meaning you yourself, if you scan this QR code here, can experience it wherever you are in your living room or your office and play around with this just like I'm about to demo it for you. And you can take this permalink right here and send it to anyone or paste it to social media. And now anybody that taps on that link will be able to experience this as well. If they don't have a render, if they don't have our app or an app that embeds our SDK, they will be asked to install the app, and then the experience will render. Okay, let's do a demo of this, and let's scan it again with my iPhone camera. I'm going to say open in Metaverse, and we're going to do this. And we're going to get our little astronaut. It says, hey, isn't this cool? I'm going to say dance for me. And so he's just going to dance. I didn't pin him, but he's still dancing. There he is, you see. And now I'm going to hit next. And that's going to tell me to put my phone into a viewer. I'm going to rotate my phone. My screen isn't going to rotate for you, but I'm going to rotate my phone. Now I'm rotating my phone around. And this is a 360-degree video playing of the space station. I'm going to exit the split screen mode. Now I'm just rotating my phone naturally. And then as I go next, it's going to go back to the scene here of this AR guy. Okay, kind of ended up right here. And again, I'll get closer to him. It says, hey, isn't this cool? I'm going to say smile for the camera. And then that's going to give me a camera with these overlays. And I'm not going to smile for it. And then I'm going to hit next, and that's going to upload that photo to the cloud. It's going to ask Google if this person is smiling, and Google should return false. And we're going to render that with, nope, that's not a smile. And then I'm going to say try again. And this time I am going to smile. And upload that photo, and it's going to process that. And it should say true, and we're going to use our web view scene to render Disney.com inside of the experience. and then next, and we'll get out. And again, after that, it asks me if I want to share this experience, which of course I can. I can share it anywhere because this simply is a permalink that people can tap on. Okay, so that was sort of a silly, trivial experience that we created. If you just open up our app, the Metaverse app, you'll see something that looks like an app store, and so it'll show you things that are trending. It'll show you thousands of educational experiences that have been created across subject matter, games, trivia, things that are funny, all kinds of things. And so feel free and play around with the stuff that people are creating. Let me show you some that I think are noteworthy. One I'm going to search for here, and it's called Solar System. Oops, it spells system. Solar System Fun. I'm just going to hit play. And this is going to give me a little solar system. It says position me and then tap next. I'm going to tap this AR button and then put it right here. I need to get it to visualize this. There you go. And so now I'm going to zoom in. So we've got this solar system here, and I'm going to hit play. And now, as you can see, we are in the solar system. In fact, we can even go inside of it and sort of look at it from the outside or look at it from perspective of the sun. And here it's just spinning around me. So this is just a simple, trivial one, but it's pretty cool that someone made. And then let me show you some that are a little bit more sophisticated. So in fact, let's do it this way. I'm going to go back to this deck here, and I'm going to scan some of these things here. I'm going to scan this lumosity test. And as I said, these experiences, we call them interactive content or interactive experiences. They don't have to be augmented reality. In fact, these scenes that we were creating here, if we click on this character scene, we can add a background if we want to. So we don't have to make it AR. We can give it a solid color, a gradient, or any URL. And so this experience that I'm about to show you actually doesn't use any AR. But it's completely created in Metaverse, and it gives you this memory test. It says, greetings, are you ready to take your fit test? I say, take fit test. This is just a camera scene, a character scene like the one I just showed you. You see it's got a timer at the top there, and gives you 7 seconds to look at this image. And then it's going to ask you a series of questions about it. And I didn't pay attention, so I'm just going to randomly tap on these things. And then it says, okay, great, this concludes the test. And then I can view my results. And it says, looks like you can use some training, 57% scored higher. Then it uses a web view scene to load the Lumosity website, so I can sign up right here. And then as I exit it, I just come right back to here. Now, there are other ways that you may encounter interesting experiences. For example, I told you about our SDK. And so I'm going to open up another app here on my phone, which is called Meta News. Now, this is simply a demo app that we created to test our SDK. So imagine this is just a news reader here. And so it's got stories, and then it's got these ads, like tap the Lumosity fit test. This is the one that I just showed you. Or this one over here, Batman needs you, tap to play. And so I'm going to tap on this one. And there's the little Lego man. And he says, collect all 8 bricks. And I'm going to say start. And then it sort of goes between AR and non-AR here. And so it says, pick a brick. So I'm going to choose one. And then here's Batman. And he says, help save the day by throwing batarangs. I'm going to say begin. It uses a give item scene. I'm going to put my hand in front of it just so you can see it better. And it gives me this digital object. This one's called a batarang. And I'm going to say collect item. Now it says now toss it. And you see at the bottom there, I've got my inventory. And so I can use my finger just like tossing a Pokeball at the Pokemon. I can use my finger to flick this at the Joker. And then it uses a probability block to test whether I hit it or not. This time I didn't. And so I can try again or go back to the main menu. I'm going to go back to the main menu. And then let me try another one. And so this one says hide and seek. This Lego man is hiding somewhere in the next picture. And then it says find me and I'll give you the password. And now this uses a 360-degree photo scene. I apologize for my network being kind of slow here. And now I'm looking around, and over here is the little Lego man. He's got the password. It says build it. And so now he says, did you find me? What's the password? And it uses a text input scene. And I'll say build it. And so if I get it right, he'll process that. And then he will give me the magic brick as a reward. And so this is just a simple sort of game. You'll see it's 8 mini games that you can play, but we got to it simply from tapping on an ad in an app, in this case a third-party app. I'll show you another example of how you can use this. And so this is just a demo game, like Flappy Bird. You see I've got 2 lives remaining, 1 life remaining. Game is over, but I can play an ad to get 3 more lives. I'm going to tap that, and this ad is just an experience, Coca-Cola experience. I'm actually going to exit this one and see if I can get a different one. So for example, here's a Nike one. This one is similar to the one we just saw, where you have to find the, use a 360 image to find the password. And there it is. We could have guessed it, just do it. And it says, what's the password? I type it in, just do it. And then it says, that's great. And then take a selfie. And remember, this is an ad we're interacting with here. And then it uploads that ad and posts it to what we call a media wall, a photo wall. And so this is a demo, so you'll see it's mostly me in here that's doing this. But there's the photo wall, and we're still inside that experience. We're still inside the ad. And once we get out of it, you see it says 3 lives remaining. So it does a callback to the app developer and says, indeed, the person did complete this ad, and therefore you can give them more lives. Okay, so this is just more ways that you can embed Metaverse in other apps. So let's take a look at that Lego experience, for example, and see what it looks like. So we saw the one we made. It was this relatively small one. This Lego one still isn't a huge one, but as you can see, it's significantly bigger. Also, of course, you can see that these buttons that you can create don't have to be text buttons. They can be image buttons, which is what's done here. That's super easy to do. You just click on the button, and then here, instead of text, you say image. And then I'm going to zoom out here just so you can see how this thing is put together. Blocks can be chained, so you can go block to block. And so these were collect all 8 magic bricks. So each one of these rows is basically a mini game to collect all 8. Once you've done that, there's this basically checking that you indeed did it, you collected all of them, and then potentially win a prize. And so this was created in about an hour and a half by a completely non-technical person. I watched them do it. Here's a game that was created by a teen that's called Mine for Gold. That's really cool. And again, I'm going to zoom out to show you that these things can get fairly sophisticated, and it's really straightforward for people to learn to do, and they just experiment with it and they create these kinds of things. Here's another interesting one. So if you're familiar with HQ Trivia, which is sort of a buzz now in the Valley, it's this real-time trivia show, sort of like Jeopardy, that people play in an app. Well, this is one that's created by Atlantic Records for one of their artists, Lizzo. And so if you're a fan of Lizzo's, you have 10 seconds each to complete her lyrics. And so you go through these scenes, and for each one that you complete correctly, it increments a counter, basically. And then once you get through all 10, it calculates how many you did. I apologize for the foul language here, but that seems to be her trademark. And it tells you how many points you scored, has you take a selfie with this overlay, uploads it to a photo wall, shows you the photo wall, and then sends you a deep link to Spotify so that you can play her music. All of this is created by non-technical people very rapidly. And by the way, you can then take this, and so any experience that's created, you can then take it and you can clone it. And so you can make a copy of it and then modify it. So you don't have to start from scratch. So this makes it really easy to go and sort of play around, look for other people's experiences that they've created that you like, clone them, and then create your own experience. I'll show you some more here. Let me do a search. There's an experience here called Emoticon. It's primarily just a camera experience I want to show you. And so this is nothing. It says take selfies to show your emotions. And then it gives you a number of camera scenes with these little overlays that give you words that say scared, tired, bored, happy, surprised, etc. Uploads each one into a photo wall, and then it gives you a web view scene that shows you the photo wall of everybody's emotions. On one of these, I'm happy, it actually does use a Google Vision block to check if the person is truly smiling. If they're not smiling, it tells them you don't look happy and gets them to try it again. Again, I'm going to click on this here. So if you want to play around with it on your own, you can simply scan this now and do it yourself. And what it does, let me show you the photo wall that it creates. Emoticon, it creates this artifact here that is now thousands of people that are doing their surprised, bored, scared, happy faces. And so it's fun to go through these and see, you know, kids to adults to all kinds of folks that are using this and loving this. This is a giant, giant list we couldn't possibly get through. Okay, so I'm actually going to stop here, and if you have any questions, please feel free and ping me. There are tons of these experiences that are in here. There are over 30,000 of them that have already been created by people. I'm happy to lead you through others on perhaps maybe a Google Hangout and show you more deeply into Metaverse. We've just scratched the surface of what Metaverse can do in this demo, but I want to be cognizant about your time. Thanks. Take care.